Jared Polin, FronosPhoto.com, and this is Fronos Photo Raw Talk, episode number 178. The time, 1:54 in the PM. Today is Thursday, December 4th, 2025. Now, I am back from Kenya. A lot has gone down in the past couple of weeks, and I know there hasn't been any episodes since I've been away other than the one that I did. And leading up to going away, Stephen wasn't on any of those episodes either. And the simple answer for that, and the reason why, is we had to film so much content before I left that there just wasn't time for Stephen to focus on being on the episode and have to edit the episode. Even though in the way that I like to do it, I just like to do the episode and post it. He likes to go ahead and go in there and take out awkwardness and just make it flow better, which is what makes a better podcast. So there's not that there's dead air, but just makes it cleaner and better for people to listen to. But he was really busy because when I go away, when I'm going to go away for 2 weeks, we have Dan, right? And we have Steven, and we need to keep the ship running, and we have to feed the content machine to make sure that while I'm away, that nobody is just sitting around with nothing much to do. So we did a lot of comparison videos with the Canon R6 Mark III versus the R5 II and the R5 and the original and the R6 Mark II. We did a bunch of different pieces of content that we wanted to get out before the Sony came out, because certain videos would be done differently now that the Sony's out than when we were making just the R6 Mark III videos against other Canon products. So a heck of a lot went into that. Stephen is off the rest of the week. The reason he's off for the rest of the week is when I landed from Kenya, and I'm going to talk about Kenya in a minute. I got back at like 2:30 in the afternoon to Philly. I went right to my house. Stephen met me at my house, grabbed the camera, brought it back to the studio to get some B-roll that he needed to get before I came back over like 30 minutes later after dropping all of my stuff off to sit down and do the hands-on preview video. Now, mind you, this is Wednesday, the Wednesday before Thursday, which was Thanksgiving. So most people are not working. They're basically wrapping up, and we're sitting here until 6 or 7 o'clock at night, making sure that we get this in the can, because the embargo was Tuesday after the holiday. So it was Tuesday at 9 a.m. Stephen was in here Wednesday. Obviously, he wasn't working on Thursday for Thanksgiving. Friday, Black Friday, we usually don't work. You know, the guys are usually off, but he stayed and started editing all day on Thursday. Sorry, all day on Friday, not Thursday, which was Thanksgiving. I believe he was busy on Saturday with other events that he already had scheduled. He took all of Sunday and edited. He took all of Monday and edited. It took him all of Tuesday to edit, and all the way in through Wednesday till we got the video out around 3:30 or 4 o'clock when the video finally came out. That's not a bad thing. That is an unbelievable amount of editing that went into what Stephen was able to get out in a very timely manner, but by busting his ass. Normally, we do want to hit embargo, and I think we'll take a slight hit on views because the hype was super hot, because Sony teased that on the 9th they were going to be releasing something, and then everybody's paying attention to 9 a.m., and all the channels are going to get their videos out, but we just didn't want to rush it out when it could be better, especially after I spent 2 weeks in Kenya using the camera, which I'll talk about in a second, using the actual camera, creating content around the camera on Safari. We're not talking about airplane spotting like Kai Wong's video. We're not talking about just general review shit, just walking around the park. We're not talking about that. We're talking about practice, and we're talking about real shit. Going out into the real world. Actually, someone commented, they're like, oh, you didn't say anything negative while you were on vacation. You're inferring that I was getting paid to be out there by Sony. Like, Sony paid me or paid for my trip to go on Safari to use their camera. Oh, I'm the only one that they did that for? Yeah, no, that's not how it works. This trip has been planned for, 8 months. We know that in October and November stuff usually comes out, but I already had this planned for 8 freaking months. So what happened is the camera showed up at 9:30 in the morning the day I was flying out to Kenya. So I'm ready to take my R1, two R1s, R6 Mark III, 10 to 20, 28 to 70, 100 to 300, 400 2.8, all my Insta360 stuff, and that's what I planned on shooting. But then Sony tells us that, holy shit, we've got a new camera coming, and the release date is, what was it, the 3rd? The 2nd? The 2nd, right? Tuesday the 2nd, and cameras aren't due in until Monday. And I was flying out Tuesday. So if something went wrong and it got delayed in customs and the camera didn't make it to Sony, the pre-production camera, then there's no way I would have gotten it, and I would have basically not had a video to put out because I wouldn't have been around for the 2 weeks to make the content. Normally, if I'm around, I'm taking the camera out, I would have gone and shot a bunch of sporting events. I mean, it would have been a different real world preview if I was at home, but I would have been able to shoot a football game. I would have been able to shoot some basketball. I would have been able to shoot some portraits. I would have been, different. I'm not going to say more well-rounded. It would have been different than what I did in Kenya, which to me is still pretty damn impressive to be photographing lions and elephants and deeks. I didn't actually take a picture of a deek this year, but I did look at them and hyenas and all this shit that we do out there. In terms of lenses, Sony didn't have any loaner lenses for me. They didn't have, I wasn't going to take a 400 2.8 because I already had my Canon. My plan was to use my Canon stuff most of the time because this is a personal trip. But then the fact that this camera landed and I got in a 100 to 400 G Master, which is older, not the ideal lens, but last year my friends that went with me on the safari, I gave them R3s and 100 to 500 Canons, and they crushed it. The 100 to 500 was super versatile. So the 100 to 400 was also going to be super versatile. Did I wish it was 5 like the Canon was? Sure, probably. But I got some really fantastic results. And once I started shooting with the camera, I was like, I'm here. I should just shoot with this camera. Yeah, I've got my R1s, which I shot on occasion, but 99% of the safari was all done on that Sony a7 IV, which is very difficult to not leak when I'm out there trying to make stories, because I like sharing stories of what's going on out there. I saw some people, they're like, why are you not shooting this? And why are you taking Insta stories instead of shooting? And it was like, well, if you only knew, right? Like I'm putting out a tour video of my room and then I realize I've got CF Express A cards out. And I'm like, well, people are gonna be like, well, why do you have A cards? Now I usually do take A cards even on trips where I don't have a Sony camera, just because what if someone else does, or they need to borrow a card, or something goes wrong. I like to be prepared. So there was that. Or why are caps for Sony falling out of your bag? So I had to be careful when I was making my reels and my stories that I didn't leak this camera. And to the person that talks about it being a vacation, it is not a vacation to go and be on safari the way that we do safari. We're not lounging. We're not sleeping in and getting pampered and going out on a safari drive, a game drive for an hour and being like, oh, look, I just saw an elephant. Oh, how exciting. Okay, let's go to the next thing. It's not how it works. We're up 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., depending on when sunrise is and how far we need to go to the place we think we're going to see something. So most days we're up at 5 or 5:30. We're out before the sun comes up, and we go out on the game drive while it's dark because we're looking for lions that are generally hunting around that time and feeding, so that we hope to get a kill around sunrise, which we got a kill 2 years ago, the first year I went, and that was, is that 3 years? No, that's 2 years ago. We got a kill of the hyenas crushed a wildebeest, and it wasn't exciting to watch. It was damaging to watch, but then it started to feed everything, and you're like, okay, it makes sense. This is their buffet. But we didn't get a kill, but we did get the tail ends, like where the lions were eating a wildebeest, or the hyenas had now come in to eat the bones. And yes, they actually eat the bones. But here's once we go out, we don't eat breakfast in the morning. We generally go out and shoot, and then when a lull happens, like 8:30, 9 o'clock, we stop, and they do a bush breakfast, which is already packed, and then it comes out, and it's like these tins, and you go and you buffet style. I'm talking like a small table, like a folding table, where it's like, here's some eggs that were made, or here's some hard-boiled eggs, or here's some peanut butter, or here's some potatoes, here's some sausage for the people that eat that shit, here's some crepes. This shit's already made, but it's not like it's gourmet, right? It's food. And then you stay out till around noon. So you were out from 6 a.m. till noon, so that's 6 hours right there. We come back, we have lunch at 1, and then we roll out again at 2:30 or 3. And we stay out from 2:30, let's just say it's 3, 4, 5, 6, another 4 hours. So we're looking at roughly 10 hours in a vehicle. Now, I'm not complaining about that. I'm just telling you that you're 10 hours bouncing around the savannah because you're going out looking for things, you're driving over things, you're sitting and waiting for things. Like, it's a job, it's a thing. Now, it's great that I get to do this, but I just want people to understand, in no way was Sony paid. No one paid. I paid. I paid for this trip. I didn't really have any third party, I didn't have any Insta products to test out this time. And generally we can try to offset the cost and by having sponsored content that I make out there, but not from the big companies, Nikon, Canon, Sony. So it's just crazy that I'm able to take this Sony, and Steven set it up for me because he had to do some video shooting before we left, but he set it up for video for me. I had the one lens coming in, and that was it. I had to make sure I had the variable ND filter for shooting video, to make sure I had 2 different filters, the Peter McKinnon Polar Pro filters. I had the 2 to 5 stop and the 6 to 9 stop because lighting was going to change. And if you're shooting at 1/50th of a second and base ISO for log is 800, well, you're going to need to cut down on light coming into the camera and not just bump your aperture higher. That's not the solution. So just going out and using a camera for the first time, just not throwing caution to the wind, but doing what you should be doing. What's really cool about what I do and what we do is the fact that I can pick up any camera from any system and pretty much go to town and start shooting it as if it's the old camera I've been using for a long time. The only system I can't do that with is basically Panasonic. I don't understand their focusing system right now, and I don't plan on continuing to shoot Panasonic because I don't believe that Panasonic is going to survive this consumer photography prosumer world. I just can't see it happening, regardless of them having good video or not. It just doesn't make any sense to really focus there. I don't think my viewership is watching that, and I also don't think my viewership cares, and I also don't think it's something that's going to move the needle that we should be spending our time on. We have to pick and choose our time wisely. There is so much that needs to get done. And yeah, it's a benefit to us to work with the Canons, the Sonys, the Nikons, the Fujis, which we don't work with Fuji because they don't send me anything. We get product to review and test, and they get the publicity of that, but they don't know whether it's going to be good or bad. And we need that content to go out into the world to help feed the beast. Advertising, sponsorship, eyeballs keep coming in. And we know that gear videos do that. So, we got to keep it churning. We also have to be very selective about what we do, because there's only so much time in a day and only so many videos we can put out. And it's a matter of, well, we don't feel that video is going to be good. We feel like, and what I mean by good is meaning it won't get a lot of views. And I know I shouldn't weigh something's worth based off of how many views it got, because we have created some amazing videos that haven't gotten a lot of views, but it's hard not to look at it that way. But we know that the Panasonic isn't going to move the needle. We know that L-mount lenses are not going to move the needle. So that's why we don't talk about them, and we don't really go to town with those. So that's the moral of that story. But from a camera standpoint, I enjoyed using the A7 V. I thought the autofocus upgrade they did was tremendous. You can see all this in the hands-on preview that we did put out, that we got out yesterday, which was Wednesday at about 4 p.m., and it's doing well. It's one of the most well-rounded product previews that you're going to see from anybody. A lot of people like to read specs. I read specs, but I also back it up with the stuff that I did in Kenya, which is just awesome, in my opinion. It's real. And that's why people tune in for the videos that we make, is they know what I'm going to give them. I'm going to give them the straight up, this is how it is. Here's what I like. Here's what I don't like. I am not beholden to any company when it comes to still photography. We use Canon we use Canon cinema cameras. Well, no, we use R5 Mark IIs and R5s still in the studio to film our videos. And I have a deal with Canon for that, because that's what we choose to use in the studio. But No one's going to be able to pay me to use a camera when it comes to shooting stills. I'm going to use the camera that I deem to be the best camera for the job, that the best lenses, the best ecosystem. If that's Nikon, I'd use Nikon. If that's Sony, I'd use Sony. If that's Canon, I'm going to use Canon. But that's me personally. What was frustrating about reading some comments, and it wasn't directed at me. It was a lot of other comments, whether it's threads and just the echo chamber of people just that don't have a camera talking about things they don't know and being like, I don't like that it doesn't do this, or this is a deal breaker. There's nothing in that camera that should be a deal breaker. Unless you need 120 frames per second RAW, then you buy an A9 III. I mean, that's the thing, is these camera manufacturers can't give one camera everything and have you expect it to be the price that it is, sub $3,000, $2,899 for the A7 IV. But then you get people like, it doesn't do this and it doesn't do that. No shit. It's also not a $6,000 body. If you want it to do all of that and a bag of chips, buy an A1 II. Buy a cinema camera. And so it is just frustratingly annoying to read comments from people who don't have the camera talking shit about a camera. Like, it doesn't have open gate. That's a fail. Is it really? Have you survived without open gate your whole life? And I don't want to sound like the get off my lawn guy, because it's like, I have IAF and I talk about how that's important. Well, that is more important than open gate. You don't need open gate. Compose your shit properly, man. And with open gate, other issues come up. It chews up a lot more data, right? It's just like shoot it this way and then crop later instead of shooting with intent. Now, yeah, it's going to come in handy for certain situations, but I venture to say that 99% of the people buying this camera will never use that feature, even if it had it. Or, oh, it doesn't have any RAW recording whatsoever. Who fucking cares? Why do you need RAW record? When's the last time you shot RAW video? I'm sure somebody was like, I shoot RAW video. We don't even shoot RAW video here because of how much data it takes up. We don't want it. We don't need it. And the majority of the people that are buying a $2,899 camera do not need RAW video shooting. So, yeah, I'm not just here to rant. The other thing that was kind of frustrating. Let me see what I have in my notes here. So I talked to you about that. There was the thing about the not working. Yeah, here it is. People were confused about whether third-party lenses worked on the A7 V, and I was like, why is anybody questioning this? Well, I guess Kai Wang in his video had a section where he tried a bunch of Chinese lenses and they weren't focusing, or they weren't focusing well. But he didn't have a Tamron or a Sigma lens to try. And yeah, the Tamron and Sigma lenses work. I mean, I was getting comments messaged to me as like, oh, now that they're going to make this a walled garden, I'm going to switch from Sony. I was like, well, excuse me, what are you talking about? Well, now that there's limitations on the shooting of I have third-party lenses and they're limiting them. And I was like, they've always been limiting them. The third-party lenses have always been limited from a frames per second standpoint. So the Sigma and the Tamron any third-party lens with autofocus, or just any third-party lens, was going to top out at 15 frames per second still shooting. Now, the reason that wasn't an issue for most of the people that owned third-party lenses or own third-party lenses E-mount for their Sony cameras is that most of the cameras they're using are not the A9 III, which can shoot 120 frames per second up to that, or the A1 II that can shoot 30 frames per second. Where if you did use third party there, which you should never, if you own an A9 III and or an A1 II, you should not be buying third party glass. You should be sticking the G Master and the best of the best with Honor Sir that Sony makes. That would just be a much better option. But you put there like a 300, except for the 300 to 600 or the 200 f2, like the specialty art lenses that you can't get anywhere else. Then fine, you want to get that, fine. But understand, you can't zoom and focus with the 300 to 600 E-mount. It just doesn't do it. You're also limited to 15 or 16 frames per second. But that wasn't a problem before. The reason it wasn't a problem before is the Sony cameras that people were using were only capable of 10 frames per second max. Unless it was the A9 III or the A1 II, or the A1 or the A9, the originals, or the A9 II. So they never noticed it. So it's just like Canon gets a whole bunch of shit that they don't have third-party lens support, but they're selling affordable first-party lenses, right? They have different versions. They've got like, well, this is a variable aperture. Or like I'm sitting here with the 45 f1.2, the 45-1.2. What's that? $469 or $439, whatever the prices they came out with. That's going to be capable of shooting at 40 frames per second with the R6 Mark III or the R1, if that's how you so choose to use it. And that's because it's first party, and they're not limiting it. But the reason I think Canon is fine with not offering third party is they'll make more. They've probably done the math, and they're like, yes, some people will go to Sony, but let them go to Sony, because if they buy third party lenses, it's not like Sony is making the money there. Sony is only going to be making the money the one time when they buy the camera. So Canon knows, and this is all my opinion, this is me conjecturing, that in my opinion, they know that they will make more money by selling their bodies and only their lenses versus the people that they'll lose who won't buy that stuff. And the fact that they have lower end RF lenses. Let me look it up. Let me go here to the website. Let me look at Canon RF lenses and go down the list here and see what affordable options. 45-1.2 is $469. They have a 50-1.8 is $239. They have a 28-70 f2.8 IS is $1,049. Whereas a Sigma, let me look this up, a Sigma 24-70 is $1,219 on sale, right? And that's third party. And this, they do have other less expensive options. Is that DNG and Artlens? Yeah, Sony E-mount one's cheaper than the... Oh, there's a Canon EF. That's old. So I was just seeing that was old. Now, Steven, let me just chime in with Steven here. Steven would chime in and say, but Jared, the art lenses, they're less expensive and they're better quality. It's like, well, maybe they are. Like they might be, but these first party are not being hindered and they're still fantastic lenses. Like the 28-70 is an affordable lens. The RF 16-2.8, which I'd never recommend, is $299. 200 to 800 is only $2,049. So that type of lens, which is going to have continuous autofocus with up to 40 frames per second, is better than buying a Sigma or a Tamron, 150 to 600? Who makes a 150 to 600? Is $1,649 for the E-mount. So you can't tell me that you would rather have that than the first party 200 to 800 that's native and giving you the full ability to zoom and focus and at the same time and get those 40 frames per second. Keep going down the list. 35-1.8 macro, $499. 100 to 400, 5.6 to 8 is a super inexpensive lens that you give to the soccer mom or dad or grandparent is $749. 28-2.8 pancake lens is $299. 35-1.4 is $1,549. They get a little more expensive. And then the super cheap 75 to 300 is $239. So I could keep going. 85 f2, $639. That's super affordable. 24 to 105 is a 4 to 7.1 is $449. And lastly, I'll stop with this. The 16 to 28 2.8, which is not a 16 to 35, but this is more of the affordable one, is $1,049. So there's a lot of options that you have first party that don't get limited and get hindrances. Now, back to the Kai Wong thing. He should not have he says he reached out to Sony, and then Sony's quote is, we do not do something about third party or whatever. We do not endorse third party. Now, maybe that's a Sony issue that Sony should have been like, hey, look, it does work. Third party lenses do work, but it's our goal to sell our own lenses. But he shouldn't have put that information out without testing it on Sigma lenses or Tamron lenses, which are the third-party lenses that a lot of people use. I didn't have a chance to throw on the third-party China glass that I have here, but to jump to the conclusion that Sony is doing this on purpose, I don't think that's the case. If they are, I'll come back and mea culpa and make a whole video and talk about it and apologize that they've locked their system up now, but that isn't the case. I don't think that's something that they would try to hide from us because it would just come back to bite them in the ass if they hid it. I just think that those third-party Chinese lenses are going to need firmware updates, whereas the Tamron and the Sigmas, for whatever reason, they work better. They just do. So I think it's not good that he put that out. It sowed a lot of confusion and misinformation into the world. And my take is, you watch Kai for entertainment. I don't watch him for like, should I buy this camera or not? Personally, you turn to us for that. Yeah, I know you're not supposed to say that stuff, but I do, because I think we make some of the. Look, we wouldn't be us if we didn't think that we were confident in the content that we were putting out. It's one of the reasons it was very difficult in the past for me to try. I tried to hire some other people to work and make content from way back in the day. But if we have completely different stances on certain things that I think should, like shooting raw, like I don't want you on my channel. This is my channel. By all means, start your own channel. That's fine. But I'm very opinionated. But I also back it up with the results. And that's why it's okay to have a different opinion and shoot differently than me. That's totally fine. But it's tough on my channel to have someone that does something different and shares different information that might not be valid, in my opinion, than what I'm sharing, which I find to be valid, in my opinion. Anyway, Steven will be back on the show at some point. Now we've got the holidays we're butting up against, and I'm not sure how many more episodes we'll do. I love when Steven's on. So he will be back on. It's just that he needed this time off because he busted his ass for like 5 straight days, putting in some late nights and early mornings to make sure that he was able to hit that embargo time. And by embargo time, a day and a half later after embargo. And I told him from day one when we got the camera, I'm like, look, I understand we'll be coming back the day before. I'll be coming back the day before Thanksgiving. And that's fine. If we don't hit embargo, we just don't get there. Like there's nothing, I don't want to worry about it because my trip was already planned. It makes the most sense to take it with me. If I was home for those 2 weeks, I would have shot for a week and we would have filmed early, and he would have been able to be done plenty of time before embargo. But that's just not how the cookie crumbled this time. This was how we had to do it, and I think we succeeded. And I think our video is one of the best out there. Let's see, what else did I see in the comments? Oh, yeah, it was mostly about the third party stuff, or people that were just saying like, it's not a major upgrade. And you're like, did you use the camera? And they're like, oh, well, of course I don't even go to look at the comments, but you know they didn't use the camera. And they're basing it off of maybe one spec. But this was a major update for this line, the A7 line. The A7 IV was very good quality, good sensor, weird autofocus. It worked, but super slow readout speed. But everything about this new camera is better than the A7 IV. Tremendous autofocus that seems to be on par with an A1 and an A9 series camera. I can't tell you how the RAW files are yet because I can't open the RAW files yet. Because that's an Adobe thing. It's just not out yet. But it's fast at 30 frames per second that are 14-bit RAW files and pre-capture. It's a very competent camera when it comes to video. And if you can't shoot video with whatever camera you have at this point and get good results, it's not the fact that it doesn't have open gate. It's not the fact it doesn't do this or that. It's you. It always, not always, it still starts with fundamentals and understanding the fundamentals and basics of photography and videography. If you don't have that, I don't care what camera you have. You're not going to get better results than someone like me or other people who can just pick up any camera and shoot. You see the limitations and then you figure out how to work around them and you succeed and make it work. But not every camera that comes out is going to check every single box that you think it should check. Or a camera would be $10,000 and there wouldn't be a $2,000 camera. Because why would they put out the $2,000 camera just to hear people bitch that it doesn't do that, it doesn't do that? Well, if you wanted it to do all that shit and a bag of chips, you need to spend a fuck ton of money. So there's that. So anyway, we made a lot of content leading up to me going away. We're now butting up against the holidays because that's what happens in December. We're still making content. We're still getting stuff ready for the end of the year to get out and then hit the ground running in the new year. Except Steven's going to have a baby in the new year early, and that's going to have his maternity leave or paternity, not maternity, paternity leave. And then he'll be back whenever he's back and whenever he decides to come back, because it's like kind of open-ended. Usually what happens is people take like a week off and then they're like, I got to start working again. I can't just do this all the time. At least that's my opinion, because I personally like working. Another funny thing happened when I got home is a friend of mine is starting photography. She is a graphic designer. She's wanted to shoot for a while. I hooked her up with a camera a while ago, but she's starting to take it more seriously. And she had a question for me because someone asked her to do a shoot and she didn't know what she needed to ask or what to charge. And she wanted to get my thoughts. And I wanted to read this to you because it is infuriating. It made me so just ready to yell, which I'll probably do in a second. Now, this was Facebook. Someone put out a request looking for a photographer, which is never a good thing, in my opinion, looking to the Facebook to say, who can do this for me? Because then you're just price shopping or just looking for someone to do something. But they put it out on Facebook, and my friend replied, and she has a couple of images, and I guess the person wanted to, ask her to do the photos. So here it is, and I won't put the photographer's name in there. So, hi, photographer. I need photos taken of my family at 3:30 Friday in, and they gave a city. I'll just say the city. Nothing fancy and won't take more than a half an hour. Are you available? 90% of this is wrong and infuriating. Like, that's fine. Hi, I need photos taken. Okay, great. Thank you for telling me you need photos of your family. I now know what that means. But next you say it has to be at 3:30 on Friday. Well, what if 3:30 on Friday is not the best timing? What if the lighting isn't good that time? Right? Like, let's take a look at the weather and we can work around it. But I think that, if we start at 3:30 and we get everything set up, by the time we get ready, the light should be better around 4:30 as it's coming down, and that's going to lead to better photos. But when you say things, nothing fancy and won't take more than a half an hour, well, who the fuck are you to tell me that it's nothing fancy and that it won't take more than a half an hour? How do you know how long it's going to take for me to get the photos? You don't know that. You don't know how long it's going to take. Maybe your little kid is going to be running around shitting themselves, throwing up at the same time. And you're like, yeah, well, that's not going to take a half an hour because now you got to clean up your kid. So it's just like, I hate when people are like, I don't need anything fancy. I just literally need someone to push the button. Well, fuck you. Go take a cell phone photo. Seriously. Like, that's what I got to say at that point is, if that's what you think, like, you don't need anything fancy, okay, fancy. No, I'm going to do the best job. I'm going to do the same job for your family photo as I'm going to do for that band photo, or I'm going to do for the president of the United States. It's going to be the same. I'm going to work my ass off to get the best photo. But don't come to photographers and tell us that you don't need anything fancy and how long it will take. Well, because now they're just being like, well, it's only a 30-minute shoot. And I'd be like, right, and it's 25 minutes from the city, from where I'm at. So that's, let's just call it 30 minutes to get there and roughly 30 minutes to get out of there, to get home. So that's an hour. And let's say that it took 30 minutes to do the shoot. Well, that's an hour and a half we're in now. And then I've got to edit your photos. So that's another hour to an hour and a half. And we're 4 hours in to this project that you said is only 30 minutes. It shouldn't take too long. And basically they're trying to say, well, I don't want to pay you a lot, so I'm going to pay you for like what I think 30 minutes is worth. But if I was able to get the photo in 3 seconds, that's the greatest photo ever since sliced bread that you needed, you're not paying me by the minute. You're paying me for my expertise. And if I was charging you 10 grand to get that photo and it took me 3 minutes or 30 seconds to get that photo versus 30 minutes or 3 hours, you're still paying me the same amount, because my skills and expertise got me there to get that photo done. So that was it. I mean, it keeps going. It keeps going. So nothing fancy, won't take more than a half an hour. Are you available? Okay, my photographer friend replies, and she says, I should be available. So she left it open-ended there. But I got a couple of quick questions so I can plan. Will the photos be indoors or outdoors? And how many people, kids, do we expect? Ages of kids? Happy to keep everything super easy and casual. Now, I like that she didn't say nothing fancy in her reply. I like that she asked the right questions, like, is this indoors or outdoors? How many people are there going to be? How many of those people are kids? What are the ages, right? And saying that you'll keep it casual is kind of playing off of their nothing fancy thing, But it's not like I go to a restaurant and I'm like, to a Michelin star restaurant and be like, yo, Michelin star fucks. I don't want anything. I don't need anything super. I've done this before, but sort of. No, I haven't. I haven't gone into a Michelin restaurant and been like, yeah, I don't want the whole show. But I've go into certain local restaurants here that I know take like 2.5 to 3 hours to do a whole meal because they really space everything out. And I say, I can have everything today as ready. And that means that they put everything in at the same time, and as it's ready, it's coming out. And I can't complain if my potatoes come out before the main dish, because I specifically said as ready, because I want to eat in a timely manner. If like I went to this other place at 8 o'clock the other night. I got there at 7:35, 7:40, and I didn't want to be out of there at 9:30, 9:45, because I got my hummus to start, and then they wait 5 minutes to bring out the next dish, to then bring out the next dish 30 minutes after. I don't want that. So I just say as it's ready. But it's like, we don't go into a restaurant and be like, yeah, I know you always do this fancy stuff, but don't make it fancy this time. And I don't want to pay that much. So she said, she asked these questions and she got a reply. And it was, outside unless poor weather. And are you ready for this? Are you sitting down right now? I'm going to give you guys a second to sit down and finish drinking your water or coffee or whatever it is, because I don't want you spitting it out when I tell you this. Okay. Outside unless poor weather. 15 kids, 11 adults. 5'4", 3'3", 1.5. That's let me check my math here. 15, 11 and 15, and carry the 7 and divide it by 6 and fucking 26. 26 people. Oh, it's going to take 30 minutes to shoot 26 people? Oh, it's nothing fancy? No, but it's complicated. You have 26 people you want in a photograph? 26. So now I got to wrangle 26 people. I've got to set them up. I've got to make sure I got my right aperture. Like, I got to get everything right. But this is why you ask these questions before you go in. You don't just show up. Well, because a 26-person photo shoot is fancy. And don't tell me it's going to take won't take more than a half an hour. It's going to take a half an hour just to set up the group shot. It's not like, hey, everybody stand here, look at me, because I want to make sure that I say, if you can't see me, I can't see you. And I'm going to have to direct. But then they're going to probably want candids while they're there. They're going to want this and what. That's 26 people. Moral of the story is she didn't take the job. She shouldn't have taken that job. It would have just been a problem and complicated. And I know she would have been helping this person out, but it's our job to temper expectations. So there's ways that you can handle this. You don't have to be a dick instantly and be like, who are you to tell me how long it's going to take? But you can turn around and be like, hey there, I just want to set some expectations here. I'm not sure how long a shoot would take, because generally speaking, and you have to educate your customer, especially when you're asking for a certain amount of money, you have to educate the customer and make them aware that this is not a 30-minute shoot. This is 4 hours or 5 hours of work or travel. It's an hour of travel, 30 back, 32, 30 fro. I have to do the actual shoot. That's no less than an hour, because I got to prep all of this shit. Then I've got to edit all of this shit, and I have to deliver it to you, and then make fixes when you're not happy with some shit. And so that's how you build this stuff so you can justify the cost that you're going to charge. So she was just in not taking this because it was probably too complicated with her just starting out. I mean, some of the questions she asked me first before I even read any of the other stuff she sent me was, should I bring flash? And I'm like, if you don't know how to shoot properly yet with regular exposure, you're not going to be able to succeed with flash. And then, of course, with flash, you're not going to be able to use one flash for 26 people outside. So we have to set the expectations. We have to temper expectations. We have to educate and inform our clients to understand why we get paid to do what we do, whether it's a 2-minute shoot or a 2-hour shoot or a 2-month shoot. There's reasons and rhymes for all of the things. I'm just trying to rhyme and just fill time. There's reasons we get paid what we get paid. You're not paying me for that 2 minutes that it took me to do this. You're paying me, and it took 2 minutes, but I also took me 20 years. It took me 30 years to get to the expertise to be able to do this. And you're not hiring Joe Schmo down the street who's going to come out here with their Rebel or Fuji and start taking shitty pictures that you think are good. So she didn't end up taking the job, which totally makes sense because 26 people, 11 of them being kids, is not going to be easy. And I just think when people are sending you emails saying it won't take long and nothing fancy, they're just trying to justify underpaying. Like, oh, it's $100 or it's $200. Well, for a group shot like this, I mean, I could probably charge $1,000 or $1,250, and they'd be like, absolutely not. It'd be like, hey, good, go hire that $300 photographer, and then call me when the photo looks like fucking shit because they shot it with a fisheye up close or a wide angle instead of backing up with a 50 1.2 or like a 85 and really compressing everything. It would be much better that way. And I'm not saying I would shoot at 1.2 a group shot like this. I would be at 5.6 or 7.1 or f8 depending on how many layers of people there are. But you just got to know your worth. You got to know your time, and you got to be okay with saying, no, I will not be taking that job. Now, in this case, if you replied back and you got all the answers and you're like, it's 26 people, it's this amount of kids, I would then temper the expectations back. I'd be like, all right, thank you for sharing the information. I now see what's going to be involved in this. I know you mentioned that it might only take 30 minutes. This is going to take no less than 30 minutes just to set up before I even take a setup photo of everybody. I want to make sure I do this right. And then if you're looking for candids, which I'm pretty sure they were, it's still going to take time for me to take candids. So understand that there's travel and there's editing and processing. And if someone comes back and is like, no, that's not what I want, just give me the files and I'll take care of the rest. The answer to that is no, thank you. I hope you find someone to take a great photo for you. If you ever have any needs, just give me a call. Right. And you just end it gracious. You end it like that and you cut it off and you're just like, yeah, no, I'm not doing it. And you go from there. So, all right, I got to get back to, I guess, Dan's finishing editing a video, and I got to export it soon, and I will go ahead and do that, but it's not going to get posted till Friday or Saturday, which is photo news, because I want to let the Sony video breathe for another day. I'd like it to be over 100,000 views, which isn't the most that of anybody. I mean, Jared Undone probably has the most with the video, like over 200,000. I know Petapixel had like 146,000, which is double what we had, but we were out more than a day and a half later. I hope we can catch up, but I'd be happy with over 100,000 views because it's a great video and we want people to see it because a lot of work went into it. So looking at the schedule coming up, that's me trying to get it to pop up. Let's see. Today's the 4th. So we should be able to do a podcast next week. We should be able to do a podcast on the 18th. And then the 18th is probably the end of the last one we'll do for the year. Because Steven will be off from the 23rd on until the new year, till the 5th of Monday the 5th of January. That's just how it is. It's just the end of the year. It's just how shit is, man. So that's it. This is RAWtalk episode number 178. Thank you guys very much for listening. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.